Hello everybody. Now we will start to explore the steps of using the Matlab partial differential equation toolbox, and we will start with the first step, which is drawing the geometry. And before we draw the geometry, we have to make sure that the available space that we have for drawing is big enough to accommodate the shape that we have. So the axis limits or the axis dimensions must be larger than the dimensions of the shape. So let's take a look at the default area that we have here. So it is from negative 1.5 to 1.5 for x-axis and from 1 to 1 in y-axis. So it's 3 by 2 by 3, or 3 by 2 if you're x by y. So it's 2 by 3 by 2. But this is one important point to notice or to understand, that this is 3 by 2 units. So it's not centimeter, it's not meter, it's not foot, it's not inch, it is 3 by 2 units. And this is something that we have to understand, that the software, even if I choose the problem that I'm solving, it's a diffusion problem, the software does not understand the diffusion coefficient, does not understand concentration. The software deals with the inputs as pure numbers. For instance, if you define the partial differential equation with negative diffusion coefficient, the software will have no problem with solving the problem with an unrealistic value of the diffusion coefficient. This interface is just a translation or an easy way that you can use to put your inputs, and the software will translate your inputs into equations. So the adjustment of these units is your task as a user. You have to make sure that you define your inputs well. You make sure that the units of each of the input is, or of all the units, are homogeneous. That if you're using the units of length as centimeter, then everything is in centimeter. For time in second, then everything is in second. So this is your task, your homework. You have to make sure that you do this well, so that the inputs that you put are okay, and the software will have no problem with solving the problem, as long as it's solvable, no matter if it's realistic or not. But if it's solvable, the software will solve it. So these are the dimensions that we have. So let's say I have something that is in or has the dimensions of 6 by 6 or anything like this. So we need to rescale the axes so that they are big enough or bigger than the required dimension. So we can do this through the axis limits. So it gives you the axis limits from negative 1.5 to 1.5, and if you take a look here, this is the same way we define the axis limits in plots. So it's the same. So I can make it from 0 to, let's say, 10, and for the same for the y-axis from 0 to 10. So if I apply this, then the axes are readjusted so that they start with 0 and end up with 10, and we can draw the grids or show the grids or the grid lines, and we can adjust the grid spacing. So we can make it from 0 to 10 with spacing of 0.5, and the same for y-axis with 0.5. You can adjust every one of them separately, of course, but this is one thing you can do. So now the axis or the grid spacing is, for me, it's good enough. So I'm happy with it now. So now the next step is to we will see some other options later. So the snap option and the axis equal, I'm gonna keep them for the future, because it's better to demonstrate them later. So now let's go to the draw mode. So I'm now it says set x and y spacing. So I'm still in the grid adjustment. So now we can go for the draw mode. I'm now done with adjusting the dimensions of the drawing area. Now I want to go for the draw mode. Now it says here that I'm now in the draw mode, so I can pick the shape that I want. We have here 5 shapes, and the drawing capabilities of this software is not like good enough, or it's not good enough. It's not very powerful. Let's put it this way. It enables the user to, or allows the user to draw basic, very basic shapes. So one of them, or they're actually three shapes, if you wanna be precise. So we have the rectangle, and it says click and drag at the corner. You can read here. The corner to create the rectangle. So the start part of the rectangle is the top left corner, but here it is starts from the center. So let's pick this shape. If I draw it here, this is how I draw it, which is the logical way of drawing shapes. And when it's done, it's called it's given a name, which is R1. But if I draw it the other using the other shape, it is going to start from the center line. Or the center point of the square or the rectangle. So this is called R2. If I draw something and I'm not happy, I can click on it as long as I'm in the draw mode, and I can delete it using the delete button. The same for the circle. I can draw a circle or an ellipse using the first button here. So I'm gonna start from the top left corner or from the center by starting from here. So this is how we draw shapes. Now let's say I have a shape that I already drew, and then I'm not happy with the dimensions. I want to change the dimensions. So if you double click, it's gonna give you the what's called the object dialog. So it gives you where the center point is. So I'm gonna make it, let's say, for 5 and 7. Let's put any values. So it's 5 and 7. It's gonna be somewhere here. And let's make the axis. So the A and B semi-axis is the radius or the two radii for or equivalent to the two radii in ellipse. So for the ellipse, it has two different radii, one in the big axis and one on the small axis. So if I put them like with any values, it's gonna be how I adjust it. So I'm gonna make it 2 and 3, and I can recall it. So I can call it circle, or rename it, I'm sorry. So it's gonna be circle. So now it's circle, and this is how it looks like. If you wanna if you wanna make it smaller, then I can make the A semi-axis 1 and 1, and this is how I draw it. The same for rectangle. I can, or for the square, I can make it at 3 and 1. The width is 2, the height is 1.5, and okay, so it's working. I can simply adjust it. I can move it from a place to another, and if you do this, you would see that the dimensions change. One other thing, or one other option that we didn't mention before, is the option of snap. And by snapping, I'm telling the software that any corner or any point I'm gonna start with must be on an intersection on the grid line. So let's say I'm drawing a shape here. It's gonna start with the point on the grid line, and it's gonna end with points on grid line. So this is one option that I really like, because it makes dealing with the shapes easier. At least for me, you make sure that you have your points or the coordinates of the shapes that you draw are more precise, especially when we make more complex shapes. So this is one nice option here. So now this is how we draw separate shapes. There is one thing that you would notice here about the circle that I didn't mention, which is that I have the two semi-axes are equal, so which means that it should be a perfect circle. But we see here that it doesn't look like a perfect circle, but it's an ellipse. But this is not actually true. This is an illusion due to the dimensions of the two axes. So if you take a look at the dimensions of the circle from the x-axis, starts at 4 and ends at 6. Here it starts at 6 and ends at 8. So it's 2 by 2. But because the width of the grid spacing on the x-axis is wider than the width of the grid spacing on the y-axis, it looks like an ellipse, but it's actually not. One thing that you can do is to make the axes equal. It's gonna put some spaces to the right and to the left so that the spacing in x and y are the same. But this is not a big deal. You still can see here that this is the area of interest for you, and that the circle is now a perfect circle. So this is one kind of nice thing that you can do. So this is regarding drawing basic and simple shapes. In some cases, the geometry that you are drawing is more complex than what you see here. So in some cases you have, let's say you have a rectangle like this that has one side is a curve or a semicircle. So in this case you cannot use these basic shapes to draw it, but MATLAB can give you the option to create shape from different shapes. So you can use different shapes to merge them or subtract them, or like delete one from the other or anything, so that you can get a shape that is a combination of different shapes. So let's say I want to make this side of the rectangle a semicircle. So I can drag this circle here, and I can change the dimensions of the circle to make it 2 by 2, so that it is oops, I'm sorry, it's I think 1.5. This is what I have. Nope. So it's from 3 to 5.5. Oh, it's 1.25 by 1.25. So if this is what I have, oh, this circle was drawn from the center, so it's not gonna work. So let's do it this way. So this is now the circle and the rectangle, and I want to merge these two shapes together. Let's say this is what I want. I want to have the shape that looks like this. I'll just do a quick tweak to the height. I'll make it 2, so it's easier for us to use, and the same here. I'll make it the radius as 1. And keep in mind this is the radius, not the diameter. I think there's something wrong with the circle snapping here. I'm not sure what, but let's draw one more. And this is one drawback of using this software. Sometimes it's stupid regarding the drawing, so you have to be like patient and make sure you're used to it. But anyways, this is the shape that you have, and you want to make sure, or you want to use this whole shape as one shape. So you'd see here in the formula it tells you R1 plus C1, which means that the shape would be the merging of these two shapes. So let's say we go to want to see how the final shape will look like. You can click on the boundary conditions, because it's gonna give you the shape of the boundaries of the shape of the whole shape that you have. So it's now the red lines are the boundaries. Let's say you wanna go back to the draw mode and try some other formula. So if I make it R1 minus C1 then and use the boundaries, it's gonna give you the opposite. So now it's removing the or subtracting this circle from the rectangle. You can make any combinations of shapes using this, and this is a very nice thing, and it gives you a lot of flexibility with dealing with these shapes. So let's say I draw another rectangle. I'm just doing any random thing, and I want to make it minus E1, or minus E1, and this is plus C1. And then let's take a look at the boundaries. I think I did something wrong. Let's go back to the draw mode. So this is E1, and this is R1, and this is so it's R1 plus C1 minus E1, and go to the boundaries. So this is I think something is not right here. So let's go back to the draw mode. Let's try some other shape here. Again, I told you this sometimes is not like the best thing to do, but it needs some trials. So it's not working for some reason. Maybe I need to rewrite the formula in a way that is better. So I make it R2 plus C1. Yeah, it's working. Sometimes you have to rearrange the points on the or the shapes in the formula. So this is how you can make more complex shapes out of simple shapes. So this is regarding the merging of shapes, drawing rectangles and squares, of course, and circles and semicircles. In the next video, we will show you, we will see the drawing of polygons. It's gonna take some time, so I'm gonna keep it for the next time. So I'll see you then.